Hi there! The following video has been written and created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. I promise I read every single comment that you write me. And leave a sub if you enjoy it. Thank you!
The knife raised, glistening in the air with blood and tiny chunks of gore. A strained inhale before going down once more. A wet slimy noise followed before it was raised again. There was a monotone, rhythmical, same strength behind every movement. It would have been robotic if it wasn't for the breaths, the coughs, and the music playing on a broken record. The song? Uranium Fever by Elton Britt, an old ditty from the 1955 that started resetting automatically around the 1.5 minute mark. The scene that played out, however, would be considered horrifying by normal people, but the factory of Playtime Co. had long since abandoned normality. What was happening here, as horrifying as it was simply just meal prep, rationing and butchering. Most toys had abandoned reason. Nothing should be wasted, could be wasted. Well, as it turns out, the toys still needed food. You can't keep a population alive on vending machines and leftover office snacks. But the prototype and his goons stood in the way of any escape. Unreasonable, really. The only point the prototype might have had was that after becoming a toy, there was your chance to reintegrate into society, which sure is a point, but not a good one. Chop, crack. The knife at the bone, crushing it, but also dulling the blade a little. A deep rumble came from you, in response, the chef of this operation. A group located in the prison complex, repurposing carcasses. After all, the toys that weren't feral knew that they were eating other toys, or, well, humans. But they didn't like being confronted with that reality every time they chose to give in to the hunger. On top of this, metaphorical food chain was you. Meat. You gave yourself that name a few months after your hour of joy. You gave yourself that name a few months after the hour of joy. You're part of a surprisingly popular, yet small toy line. The reason? Your toys were purchased by high school-aged boys rather than little girls. Based on a popular tabletop game, Demons and Angels. A children's show for girls had been created, but due to its accuracy to the tabletop game's lore and gameplay mechanics, it was equally, if not more, beloved by the male players of the game. Because of this mismatch and resulting terrible reputation, only 2 total toy collections were created before the line was abandoned in favor of more additions to the tabletop game. There are just so many jar incidents a franchise can handle before being tarnished. You were a doll based on the show's female main character Shimmer, half human, half fairy. And no, the show never gave specifics as to how exactly a human and a fairy did their business together. You were a lucky toy, really, as you almost looked perfectly human if it wasn't for seams and joints that by now creaked like old floorboards in every of your body parts, and several missing chunks of magenta-colored artificial hair. Your body was in severe disrepair. Multiple holes were in your plastic skin, out of which red, oozing skin squeezed through like sickly boils that were very sensitive to the touch. Multiple of your teeth were missing, not because of tooth decay, but because they were ceramic replacements that were haphazardly inserted into your toothless mouth. But worst of all was the damage to your lungs. Due to how your new body had been constructed to physically function, your insides had been crammed into a shell that was almost unmoving, meaning you couldn't fully inhale anymore. Every breath you took was labored, strained, and painful. It was obvious to anyone, really, that the reason toys deteriorated to this degree was a failsafe by Playtime Co. You, among many others, were technically required to constantly be cared for by specialists and doctors. Specialists who long passed away during the hour of joy. But still, you survived. Long enough to spend your life chopping up meat of toys to feed toys. At least you didn't need to hunt it. Your kitchen used to be an employee break room, walls caked in layers of dried and fresh blood alike. On hooks, hanging artificial bloody skins of the toys you butchered, spit-roasted and spatchcocked. Your body was covered in oil and fat and blood. Sure, this almost kitchen was disgusting, but more or less it was the cleanest place to get an actual prepared and cooked meal. Behind you, a practically zombified toy based on some no-name action figure. He was scanning and carefully disemboweling captured smiling critters. Like you, his mind was barely intact, and he could no longer vocalize anything but grunts and mumbles, similar to you. It was his work that kept him calm, just like you. There were other toys you worked with, of course. Practically, you worked with everyone. In a faction sense, you were neutral to both the forces of the prototype and the rebellious safe haven toys. Even the doctor was docile towards you, choosing to take meals from you as payment for him leaving you alone. After all, test subjects that were dead from hunger were not really that useful. You grabbed a fistful of chopped meat cubes before dropping them into a boiling pot. Coughing, patiently you stared at the floating cubes, watching them turn grey, as you did salt and harvested cave mushrooms. They were abundant around Playcare, making it vital that you kept Catnap well fed and peaceful with your group. They weren't filling at all, and they were considered poisonous as they caused vomiting, but by boiling them or frying them on a very high heat, they lost that ability, adding their texture and surprisingly fragrant aroma to anything they were added to. No one left alive was interested or smart enough to properly cultivate them, and all you managed to come up with was setting up dirt-filled boxes in the areas you found them more abundantly, and making sure the dirt remained moist. It worked, sometimes, but of course, other, more dangerous cave mushrooms grew there too, making a careful selection absolutely necessary. Once you felt like it was time, you reached into the pot with your undamaged right hand, the artificial skin shielding you from the instant sensation of the boiling water. Yet the heat was still seeping into your muscles. Your arm steamed, a tiny meat cube in your fingers. Quickly you threw it into your crushed mouth. Due to your missing teeth, chewing was too painful, so you just swirled it around with your tongue, tasting the pork-like toy flesh before pulling your head back and swallowing it. The cube slowly made its way down your throat. You could feel its texture as it went into your stomach. Hands still steaming from the hot liquid, you killed the flame. You were satisfied with this. You placed the pot onto a cold oven tile. It was good enough. It no longer tasted like outright cannibalism. You exhaled a shaky, exhausted, dog-like breath. Your body felt hot. You were unable to sweat. You needed to take constant breaks or were risk at overheating. You pointed at your underling, grunted, and he nodded. By now, the toy understood that your grunting meant, "I'll be right back." With your limbs creaking, you huddled outside through a green metal door. The break room was located near an office. The cubicles had been smashed and repurposed to make sleeping quarters for you and the toys you controlled. A total of 10. Most were currently exploring the upper factory for more meat scraps, while the others stood guard. So it really was just you and your sous chef in the kitchen that worked. Without many thoughts in your head, you huddled towards the employee bathroom. Here you had set up a small tub with ice-cold water collected from pipes. You used it to cool your body down when the kitchen got too hot. Swiftly you shedded the blood-stained apron and dress. A strained breath escaped your destroyed mouth as you lowered yourself into the cold. You shivered, exhaling sharp breaths, shaking legs and tapping fingers, drool slowly dipping past your lips. Leaning back, shoulders touching the colorful torn wood of your haphazardly crafted water ball, knees pulled up to your chin, you sat there, eyes vibrating in their sockets. It was electrifying, painful, really, especially on your fleshy exposed parts, but it kept you from overheating. It kept you from passing out and dying. But, despite the peace, your ears suddenly twitched. Your eyes went up in the left corner of the bathroom, where an ancient well stood, through which you could hear rumbling, faint but rapidly approaching. A silent jittering exhale later, and the gate to the bathroom was smashed open. Through it fell, and a fat blue-yellow mass slapped onto the ground. It groaned, and a moment later, through the vent, you saw it. A TV screen attached to a metal skeleton, a single eye on it. Narrowing it, it stared at you. Neutral ground. Ah, such an annoyance. You're lucky I respect our deal, mate. Don't hide him from me for too long. Got it? The automaton was controlled by none other than Dr. Sawyer. He pointed a metal claw at you. And then he left without another word. Your eyes narrowed. The doctor truly was a tough customer, but a customer nonetheless. Meanwhile, the blue mass, Doey the Doughman, retook his shape, chuckling to himself as his eye holes entirely focused on the vent. Oh well, last time I tried raiding that place. He put his hands on his hips. His head turned, only to immediately gasp and cover his face. Oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Mead, he shouted. You tilted your head a little. Oh, you want to know what I was doing? Okay. He sighed, sitting down, his head wobbling as he did so. So we need construction materials. We're trying to build an outpost. You know, to make fortifications. It's difficult when you're limited on nails and wood. I mean, we do have enough metal. He paused, leaning back, while you looked down at your feet. Yeah, I agree, he said understandingly. But worst of all, mate, is that he equipped those guard automatons with freeze gel sprayers. Freeze gel sprayers? I think that's a little over the top. You coughed and looked up at the ceiling. Yep, he affirmed. You knew that cold was his biggest weakness. Sorry I interrupted your bath time, mate. You cocked your head sideways, your stringy plastic hair brushing over your face a little, your hands dropping just beneath the water surface as you gripped your ankles. Huh? You don't want me to leave? You blinked. I mean, sure, I can stay, but isn't it awkward? The doorman smiled. I mean, granted, he's probably lurking just outside the office, waiting for me. I'll need to wait until he retreats for recharging, so I suppose. You rocked back and forth a little, making the water wobble as you did. Yeah, I know, that'll take at least 6 hours, but I'm not in a hurry. Finally, you leaned forward, placing your dainty little fingers on the tub's edge, while letting your butt float to the surface, the faintest of smiles decorating your lips. Oh, He scratched the back of his head. You know I shouldn't really be swimming in liquid either. It'll make me all runny. You softened your expression, causing him to sigh. I get it. Your life is very monotone. It's just a little weird, you know, with the size difference and all, and... The little head tilt, the seductive blink that followed, it made Froey's 3 hearts jump. And after analyzing his reaction, you leaned back, pleased, crossing your legs in the water. Doey came closer. He grabbed his big old belly, pulling up the dough to make himself look like an inflated muscle man figure. You smirked. It was adorable. It wasn't the first time Doey was seduced either. To you, he was the only real viable partner for things like this, as you'd call this. Others were too small and it'd be weird. Ferals, or they were bloodthirsty devotees to the prototype, or well, they were the doctor. Doey stepped into the water with one leg first, causing you to push yourself back as far as you could to give him room. The water sloshed, but also it became a little less, as Doey was absorbing it, sucking it up into his mass. You'll need to dry me after this. I can't walk after we're doing this. You knew that, of course. The more liquid he absorbed, the more his face began to melt. His body became softer, more runny, more fluid. You watched him glide like oil into the water. It quickly became warm with his presence. The feeling of gentle oil residue that clung to you like a hug. You leaned back, a sigh and quiet cough escaping you. You were enjoying this. You could feel him nudging you, prodding, feeling, rubbing, tugging. He brushed over your sensitive parts. Small, worm-like tentacles emerging out of the mass that was the dissolved Doey. They snaked up your body like vines around a statue. Their touch like a warm embrace. Their ministrations like a needy lover. But all-consuming nonetheless. It was an ecstasy that made your entire unclothed body shiver with wet delight. You arched your back in pleasure, opening your mouth to cough up a moan, and the 6 eyes of Doey's mass flashed red. And simultaneously, they shot up with 3 thick, ink-black tentacles. Before you could close your mouth, they invaded. Your eyes widened with pleasure and desire as they began to wiggle and prod inside your wet, hot mouth, shaking, twitching. You grabbed 2 of them with your hands, jerking them as you lost yourself to the pleasure.
Hey, you reached the end of the video. That makes you part of an exclusive club. Our secret password for this month is Shut Up, Meg. Leave it in the comments below to tell fellow members you watched the video until the very end. Lastly, before we say goodbye, I want to take the opportunity and thank my channel members: Mimi Mumu, Adrijama, Jaws, Malofia, Mexicat, Allison Watkins, Mystic Jade 111, Joanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, and Anonymous Weep. Thank you for being darling stewards. And of course, a big thank you to all the other channel members. It's you who keep me alive. Thank you, and goodbye.